The series begins in Turkey in one of the poor neighborhoods. We see Yaman, a young man among the homeless youth who has no home, family, or job because he was raised and lived among street children, never attended school or learned anything. Therefore, he is forced to work in garbage collection. At that time, Yaman notices a little girl under a truck trying to retrieve an apple she saw underneath it. Yaman runs to the truck and stops it because it was about to move with the girl under it. The driver then argues with the little girl, calling her a monster because of her appearance. Her clothes are torn and her body is covered in dirt. Yaman intervenes, yells at the driver, and lets him know that the girl is hungry. The apple is all she has, takes the apple and gives it to the girl. Yaman then continues his work until night falls, passes by a nightclub, and looks at the young people inside with a look of brokenness and sadness because they are his age yet, dancing, getting drunk, and wasting their money on partying. At that time in the bar, we see a young man named Ilaz, known to come from a large and famous family. He is seen fighting and hitting other young people in the club, appearing drunk and fond of trouble. He is with his girlfriend Roya, his sister Shajla, and her boyfriend Osgar. Ilaz argues with his sister Shajla because she wants to go home since they are late and their mother is worried about them. Osgar tries to calm Shajla, but when he fails, he argues with her as well, calling her grumpy, and then leaves her alone and walks away. Shajla, feeling very upset, goes to the bathroom. At that moment, she receives a call from her mother, Naslihan, asking again when they will return home. Shajla reassures her mother that they are fine and accuses her of making a big deal out of nothing. After ending the call with her mother, Shajla looks at a picture of her children on the wall and thinks about her son, Ali, who was kidnapped and lost when he was young, wondering whether he is alive or dead and what he is doing now. At the same time, Ilaz is driving the car recklessly, with Roya beside him, terrified to death, begging him to stop the car. But he is completely drunk and not in his senses. He arrives at a strange, random place and stops the car, which turns out to be where Yaman lives. Roya, while getting out, accidentally messes up Yaman's day's work of collecting trash. She apologizes to him, thinking it was just trash. Meanwhile, Elaz starts dancing in the street, stripping off his clothes and screaming. Yaman tells Roya that people here might beat Elaz up and humiliate him, so she must take him and leave. Frightened, Roya gets back into the car. Yaman decides to hit Elaz to knock him out, places him in the car, and asks Roya to leave. Roya admits she doesn't know how to drive and asks Yaman for help to get them home if he knows how to drive. Indeed, Yaman drives the car and moves on. On the way, Roya sprays perfume to mask the alcohol smell. Yaman sarcastically suggests that if they are afraid of being found out for drinking, it might be better not to drink at all. Roya argues with him over his comment and asks him to stop the car, especially since she notices he is taking a different route she doesn't recognize. Yaman stops the car, and at that moment, Roya realizes they are already on their street and that Yaman took a faster route. She shyly asks him to continue driving. Upon reaching the house, Yaman is surprised to see how big and luxurious the house is. Shajla is waiting for Roya and Ilaz, telling Roya that if their parents see Ilaz in this state, she will be in big trouble. Roya asks Yaman to continue helping them by carrying Elaz into the house. Yaman agrees to their request. When Roya and Shajla agree to give him money in exchange for his help, he leaves them and goes to the kitchen to drink water because he is thirsty. At that moment, Naslihan sees him and screams, asking who he is, what he is doing in her house. Then she confronts Shajla and Roya for letting Elaz drink until he was completely drunk and for bringing a stranger into the house. Roya defends herself by saying that if she knew how to drive, she wouldn't have asked for help from the wild man. At that moment, Yaman overhears Roya as he is sitting in the office as Naslihan had requested. He feels offended by their words about him, so he starts to make the office dirty and writes his name on the glass. Just then, Naslihan enters and asks him for his name and where he lives. When he doesn't respond, she gives him her card, telling him she is the president of the Street Children Protection Association. Yaman angrily asks if she is protecting them or protecting the street from them, recounting how they sought help many times before but were never assisted. He tears up the card and throws it on the ground. Naslihan is shocked by his action and decides to appease him by offering him money, asking him not to spend it on drugs. Yaman tells her she should say that to her son and informs her that he doesn't need her money, adding that he helped her son only to protect him, nothing more. However, Naslihan insists on giving him money, so he asks for $1,000, which she gives him without hesitation. Yaman is very happy with the amount and leaves, getting into the car that was waiting for him with the driver. Afterward, Naslihan enters Elaz's room and starts searching through it while breaking down. Her mother comes in, sees what she is doing, embraces her, and tries to calm her down. The next morning, Yaman enters the house where he lives with a group of street boys who consider each other brothers. He wakes them up very happy and excited, telling them that fortune smiled on them today. He says he got $1,000 in exchange for helping someone and shows them the money, which makes them extremely happy and incredulous that they now have money. They understand that their happiness stems from the fact that their brother, Omut, will be able to get his legs treated and stand and walk again. Asi, their sister, brings a newspaper clipping about the miracle doctor who will treat Omut, and that today is the doctor's arrival in Turkey. They decide to quickly get ready and go to meet the doctor. Yaman sits down and tells them about his encounter and how he got the money. At that moment, Josur, their brother, is wearing Elaz's clothes, which he had taken off and thrown in the street while drunk the previous day. Josur is happy to wear expensive clothes for the first time in his life. Suddenly, Josur finds Elaz's wallet in the trouser pocket, and he, Asi, and Omut are thrilled because the wallet contains a lot of money. However, Yaman wants to take the wallet from Josur, explaining that they took compensation for their efforts and taking the wallet would be stealing, which is not in their nature. At that time, Nasilahan stands in front of a picture of her sons when they were young, looking at it with profound sadness because she misses her son, Ali. She enters Elaz's room with Shajla and pours water on Elaz to wake him up, telling him to quickly change his clothes and come down because she needs him. She also says she needs Shajla, who feels upset with her mother for blaming her for what happened the previous night. Then, Elaz finds his eye swollen and asks Shajla what happened. She tells him he can ask Roya, who had a rough time with him the previous night, shocking Elaz because Roya might leave him and break up with him. Shajla tells him that a street person helped them and was the one who brought them home. When Elaz asks if that person was the one who hit him, Shajla assumes so and gets angry because all he cares about is who hit him, while their mother is planning to conduct drug tests on them and is very upset. Shajla leaves Elaz alone and walks away. Then they all move to go to the hospital to undergo drug tests. At this time, their younger sister Isi comes and tells her mother that she wants to go back to school again, but her mother asks her to enter the house and rest until she returns, as Issei has a heart condition and gets tired quickly. Afterward, they arrive at the hospital, which belongs to their family. Serhan, Nasilehan's husband, comes to ask about the reason for their presence. Nasilehan informs him that their son, Elaz, was in an abnormal condition yesterday, beaten up and with a swollen eye. Serhan asks who the person who hit him was. Elaz says he doesn't know yet, but as soon as he finds out who it was, he will make them pay dear. Nasilehan angrily responds, informing him that he and Roya owe their lives to this young man. After taking a blood sample from Elaz, Shajla sits down to have her sample taken as well. At that moment, Nasilihan notices many bruises on Shajla's arm and becomes very worried, asking who did this to her. Shajla becomes very nervous, and Nasilihan suspects her boyfriend, Osgar. Shajla laughs sarcastically and tells her parents that she fell and her body bruises easily, but they are not convinced by her explanation. Nasilehan takes the blood samples to send them to the laboratory, and Serhan argues with Nasilehan about what she is doing, worrying that their reputation at the hospital might suffer. Suddenly, they find themselves in front of Ashraf Bey, Nasilehan's father, who intimidates them all because he is a very strict and firm person. When he sees Elaz's swollen eye, he asks who did this to him. Serhan tells him that a drunk young man attacked him yesterday, trying to rob him. Ashraf Bey then asks his daughter why she is doing blood tests for his grandchildren, to which she lies and says they are just routine tests to check on their health. He takes the tests from her and gives them to a hospital worker, instructing that the results be given to him personally. Later, Serhan meets Shajlam, Roya's mother, who also works in the hospital's administration. He tells her about what happened and expresses his certainty that Elaz is using drugs. Shajlam becomes very worried that Roya might also be using drugs. Serhan informs her that the bigger problem is that Ashraf Bey himself will see the results of the tests, and they will be in a big crisis and must prepare. On the way, Elaz notices that his wallet is missing, and Shajla argues with him because he has involved her in problems with her grandfather, and she is innocent in what is happening. At the same time, Yaman is with his brothers, and they all ask Josur to stop making his silly jokes with Omut. Josur jokes with them too, saying he will throw himself in front of cars to die and relieve them of his presence. At that moment, a car brakes hard to avoid hitting Josur. Yaman argues with the driver then, and we discover that Elaz and Shajla are in that car. When Shajla sees Yaman, she tells Elaz that he is the young man who helped them and Roya the previous day. Elaz gets out of the car and goes to Yaman, asking him to give him his wallet, accusing him of possibly stealing it to take the money inside. He looks at Josur sarcastically, saying the clothes they stole do not suit him. Josur gets very angry, argues with him, takes off the clothes, and insults him. When Elaz tries to approach Josur, Yaman stops him, warning that if he comes close to any of them, he will regret it. Elaz provokes him by asking where their parents are, who threw them on the street to clean them up. Yaman ignores him him and tells the driver to take him away because he still seems drunk from the previous night. Yaman gives Ilaz his wallet and warns him not to show his face again. Then Josur argues with Yaman for giving the wallet back to Ilaz with the money inside, arguing they need the money more than him. Yaman angrily says they are not thieves to do such a thing, and they argue. Umut is upset because this was supposed to be the best day of his life, as he was going to be treated and walk on his legs. Yaman and Josur tell him they were joking and did not mean to argue, and they would never fight because they are brothers and love each other. At this time, Ashraf Bey is in the office with Serhan, very angry about the high salary he ordered to be paid to the miracle doctor coming from abroad to work in their hospital. Serhan tells him that the doctor is very famous and deserves the salary. Ashraf Bey insists that it is important for the doctor to be skilled and honest, and he is concerned that the hospital is wasting money due to the expenses. Serhan angrily responds that he is doing the impossible to solve the financial crisis they are in, as the hospital loses a lot by caring for street children for free. Ashraf reminds him that he is the doctor and understands more, and not only did he give him his daughter, but he also made him responsible for managing the hospital. If he cannot maintain their reputation and the hospital's reputation, he will completely withdraw it from him, reminding him that he is still alive and watching what they are doing. Afterward, Serhan goes to the laboratory and asks the doctor to send him the results of his children's tests as soon as they are available and to delete them from the hospital records. The doctor tells him that there are instructions from Ashraf Bey to have the tests sent to him once they are ready. Serhan yells at him, stating that he is the hospital director and his orders should be followed and executed as requested. At that time, Yaman and his siblings arrive at the hospital, seeking to meet the newly arrived doctor through the free medical consultations offered to them. The receptionist informs them that the free consultations are available on Wednesday. Yaman says they have money and can afford an urgent consultation, but the receptionist tells them that the schedule for urgent consultations has been closed for a month. Yaman and Asi try to convince him in any way possible, but the employee says there is nothing he can do. Josur and Yaman then argue with him, leading to security coming and hitting them, causing Umut to fall to the ground. Serhan and Nasilehan come upon hearing the noise. Serhan orders security to throw them out of the hospital. However, Nasilehan takes them to her office to talk to Yaman and understand why they attacked the employee and caused such trouble. Yaman tells her about a fight he had one day with the person who employed them because he wanted them to steal, which he refused, leading to him being left hungry and thirsty for days. Umut couldn't bear to see him like that, went behind his back to bring him water, and when he was caught, he was beaten severely on his legs, which resulted in him not being able to walk again. Yaman shares his constant guilt over what happened to Umut because of him, yet Umut never made him feel regretful for helping him. He pleads with Nasilehan to help Umut and gives her the $1,000 he got from her, explaining that he asked for the money for Umut, not for himself. Nasilehan sadly informs him that the doctor who came to the hospital is not a miracle doctor, as everyone says, because he deceives people and takes their money without properly treating them. However, she promises to do everything she can because she is a real doctor and will be able to help Umut. Yaman is overjoyed and hugs her, looking at Umut to reassure him that he will get treatment, will be fine. Afterward, Serhan comes and argues with Nasilehan for helping Yaman and his companions. Nasilehan tells him that she is the president of the Association for the Protection of Street Children, and her role is to help and protect them because their lost son could be one of the street children. Serhan yells at her, telling her to stop making them feel guilty every time that Ali was kidnapped and lost. Then Shajlam comes and tries to calm Nasilehan down because she is crying and upset by Serhan's words. She tells her that she is making a big deal out of some homeless kids, which greatly disturbs Nasilehan, and they argue. Shajlam yells at her, saying she does not realize the blessing she is in and that many women wish to live her life. She is always thinking about her son who was lost and will never be found again, neglecting her other children without realizing it. At the same time, Ilaz is with Roya, trying to talk to her, but she ignores him, not wanting to speak with him. She reminds him of what happened and that he endangered her, becoming a bad person she can no longer tolerate. Ilaz argues with her because she does not know how to drive and had to ask for help from a homeless person. Roya angrily responds, telling him that the homeless person turned out to be better than them, protecting and helping them. She leaves him, very upset by him. Later, Yaman is with his siblings at home, telling them that Umut will be treated for free, and the doctor refused to take the $1,000 he offered. Now the money is theirs, and they are very happy, deciding what each of them wants to buy with the money. Then Ilaz arrives at Yaman's place, which he learned about from their driver, along with his friend and his sister's boyfriend, Ozgar, and some thugs to beat Yaman. When Ilaz and his companions ask Josur and his siblings about Yaman, Josur tells them Yaman is not there and warns Ilaz to leave or he will make him them regret it. Elaz then orders the thugs to beat Josur. After they leave, Josur is furious and vows to gather all the boys and take revenge on Elaz at his house. However, Asi stops him, reminding him that the doctor who will help Omut is Elaz's mother. They must forget what happened now for their brother to heal and be able to walk on his legs. Shortly after, Yaman arrives home, bringing a television for them to enjoy and watch. He goes up to the roof to set up the television, and no one mentions what happened. Osgar goes to Shajla and tells her what he and Elaz did to the young man who brought Elaz and Roya home, and how his siblings paid the price. Shajla is shocked by his words. At night, there is a press conference for Nasilehan's association. She talks about Yaman and his help to her son while he was drunk, emphasizing that street children indeed need help because they have goodness inside them and do not deserve the life they are living. After finishing her speech, she leaves the conference, with Elaz, Shajla, and Serhan being very upset by what happened. The next morning at breakfast, Elaz, Shajla, and Isi are having breakfast with their mother, who reminds them that today is the birthday of their brother Ali. Elaz becomes very upset and tells her that Ali must have died a long time ago, shocking his mother. She tells him that she expects them at the birthday party for their brother that night, which she insists on holding every year. Nasilehan goes to the hospital afterward and gathers the doctors to show them the scans related to Omut. She asks them to do everything in their power to help him, becoming upset with Serhan for mocking her and her speech. After the meeting, Nasilehan argues with Serhan, reminding him that he is not a doctor to sit with them in the meeting. He tells her that what she wants to do for the boy will cost them $170,000. The hospital cannot afford these expenses. She insists that she is a doctor and it is her duty, while he reminds her that Ali will not return for her to keep thinking about him and treating street children as if they were Ali. At that time, Roya decides to go to Yaman's house. Everyone is surprised to see her. She gives Yaman his jacket that he forgot in the car the day he helped her and Elaz. She tells him she washed it and it's ready to wear. Asi is very upset with Roya and asks her if her boyfriend Elaz knows she is here. Roya responds that Elaz is not her boyfriend, making Yaman visibly happy. She decides to enter the house and sit with them, enjoying her time with Yaman and his siblings, who also really like Roya. Afterward, Yaman takes her to leave, and she thanks him for his help, asking if those were really his brothers. He tells her they are his street brothers with whom he grew up, becoming like a family. When Roya asks about his parents, Yaman is upset by the question. She apologizes, revealing that her father left her when she was young. Then, Roya asks Yaman to teach her to drive since he knows how. She takes a taxi and leaves. Yaman goes to the hospital with Omut and Asi. Serhan tells them that Omut's treatment would require $170,000 from them. Yaman responds that Dr. Nasilehan said the treatment would be free and they came to meet her as agreed. Serhan reveals he is the hospital director, Nasilehan his wife, and the Elaz who hit him his son. The hospital will not spend money on a hopeless case, looking down on them and telling them to beg elsewhere. They were enough with the new wheelchair they got from Nasilehan. Security tries to remove Yaman, Asi, and Omut from the hospital. Omut breaks down, asking Yaman to carry him, give them the wheelchair, and leave quickly. When they return home, Yaman is shocked to see the bruises on Josur's body and asks who did this. He becomes very angry when no one wants to answer. Josur reveals that Elaz brought thugs and beat him. Anger overtakes Yaman and he leaves the house very agitated. At this time, Elaz, Shajla, and Serhan are very afraid because the results of the tests have reached their grandfather. When he comes down to talk to them, they discover that their grandfather does not know the true result, which greatly relieves them. However, their mother informs them that the hospital did not send the original tests to their grandfather at her and their father's request. Elaz's tests came back positive, and she tells him that he will start treatment tomorrow. She tells Shajla that her tests are clear, but informs her that she reported Osgar, her boyfriend, for hitting her, and she must go to give her testimony. Then they all gather to celebrate Ali's birthday, and each of them makes a wish for Ali. Each wishes that they find Ali, but Shajla and Elaz are visibly upset. Elaz wishes that if Ali is dead, they find his body, shocking Nasilehan and Ashraf Bey. Elaz tells them that nobody remembers his birthday even though he is present, but they remember Ali's birthday even though he may no longer be present. He feels that he and his siblings are worthless and unimportant, with all the attention going to someone who may already be dead. When Elaz goes to his room, he is surprised by Yaman, who attacks and beats him. At this moment, Nasilehan is in Ali's room, reminiscing about the day he was lost while playing in the garden, crying as she looks at his bed and toys. Elaz manages to escape from Yaman, who chases after him. Yaman then stands shocked in front of a picture on the wall in Ali's room, because it is a picture of him with Nasilehan. He sees the teddy bear he loved to play with as a child and cries from the shock of realizing this is his home and these are his family. When Nasilehan sees him, she screams, thinking he came to attack them in their home. At that moment, Elaz attacks Yaman with a knife. Yaman tries to defend himself and take the knife from Elaz. Nasalehan also intervenes to take the knife from Elaz before he commits a crime. Suddenly, the knife stabs Nasalehan and she falls to the ground with the knife in Yaman's hand. He stands shocked and devastated by what happened. Everyone rushes in at Elaz's scream, asking them to call an ambulance quickly. Issei and Shajla collapse at the sight of their mother on the ground, bleeding. At this time, Yaman has fled and looks at a picture of himself as a child that he has had for a long time. He keeps running in the street, devastated and crying, unable to believe what he has discovered, that on the day he finally reaches his mother, she might have already died. He sits on the ground, breaking down even more because the stabbing happened because of him. The next morning, Nasalehan is in the hospital, still alive and not dead. Roya is there with Elaz, who tells her what happened and that Yaman was responsible for what happened to him and his mother. Roya finds it hard to believe and doubts his words. Then Shajla arrives and attacks Elaz, blaming him for everything that happened because he and his friend Osgar, her boyfriend, went with thugs and beat Yaman and his brothers. Their father asks them to stop fighting and warns them not to let anyone else know about this. He learns Yaman's address from Elaz and informs the police about him. Then the police raid Yaman's house, asking his siblings about his whereabouts, but none of them knows where he is. The officer takes the picture hanging on the wall, cutting it to keep only Yaman's picture. At the same time, Yaman is outside the hospital and hears Ashraf Bey talking to the press, claiming that a homeless young man attacked them in their home and stabbed his daughter with a knife. Yaman is shocked at this and realizes Ashraf Bey is his grandfather. He manages to enter the hospital unnoticed and reaches Nasalehan's room. Upon seeing her, he starts crying, talking to her and calling her Mom, explaining he never intended to hurt her and that he has always resisted becoming a bad person, striving to stay clean despite everything he faced on the streets. Roya overhears him and is shocked. At that moment, Saran enters and tries to hand Yaman over to the police. Yaman pulls out a picture of himself as a child and shows it to Serhan, claiming he is Ali, their son. Serhan does not believe him, accusing him of being a con artist and stealing the picture. Roya, having heard everything and knowing the truth, sees this. Then Elaz and Shajla arrive, and Elaz runs after Yaman to hit him. At this time, Nasalehan regains consciousness, calling out for Ali, her son, telling Roya that Ali came to her. She heard his voice, convinced she was not dreaming. At night, Yaman sleeps on the street, dreaming of the day he got lost as a child. He wakes up startled, and suddenly he finds someone approaching him. Afterward, Roya tells her mother what she has learned, that Yaman, the homeless young man accused of the crime against Nasalehan, is actually Ali, her supposedly deceased son. Shajlam is shocked by her daughter's claim and insists that the homeless man must be lying to avoid prison awaiting him. She tells her that the kidnappers of Ali killed him after receiving the ransom because he saw their faces. To this day, Nasalehan refuses to believe it. She tries to convince Roya not to discuss this matter with Nasalehan to avoid giving her false hope. When Nasalehan returns home, her daughter Isi is overjoyed to see her and shows her Ali's teddy bear, which she repaired after it was torn during the incident. Later, Nasalehan sits with Shajlam, Roya, and Serhan. When she learns from them that Yaman came to the hospital and entered her room, she suspects that he was the one talking to her, claiming to be Ali. When Roya tries to tell Nasalehan the truth, her mother and Serhan interrupt her, trying to convince Nasalehan that Yaman wanted to kill her. Nasalehan insists that Yaman did not want to kill her and that what happened was just an accident, which she will tell the police. Serhan becomes angry at her statement and leaves. Then Serhan sits with Shajlam, warning her not to let her daughter say anything to Nasalehan, as he is not prepared to relive the past experiences. At this time, Yaman is with his friend Salem, who saw him in the street at night and took him in. Yaman decides to stay with him for a while. Later, Yaman eats with Salem and a group of children. At that time, he asks a young girl to go to an address he tells her about. In the police station, the officers interrogate Josur, Asi, and Omut to find out Yaman's whereabouts, but they do not know where he is. Ashraf Bey is at the police station, telling Josur and his siblings to inform Yaman to surrender himself because he will not let him go and will personally ensure he is caught. When the little girl goes to the address Yaman told her about, the police are standing in front of Yaman's house and his siblings, ready to arrest Yaman if he appears. When they see the girl, they approach her and take the chickpeas she was delivering to Josur, thinking there might be a message from Yaman inside. However, they find nothing. When Josur enters the house, he understands Yaman's message through the chickpeas, knowing that Salem always used to bring them chickpeas, and concludes that the little girl couldn't have known the house by herself, indicating that Yaman must be with Salem. Calls the vegetable vendors to stand in front of their house to distract the police for a while, allowing him and Asi to escape in their car hidden among the vegetables. The plan works, and they manage to escape the police without being seen. Osgar goes to Nasilehan's house with Shajla to check on her mother after she was discharged from the hospital. However, Nasilehan becomes very angry upon seeing Osgar and throws him out of the house. Shajla argues with her mother for expelling Osgar, explaining that he was only holding her tightly at the club because of a fight that happened there, and accuses her mother of unfairly reporting Osgar to the police without verifying what happened. She expresses her frustration with her mother's behavior and refuses to allow her to make her lose Osgar. Then Serhan sits with Nasilehan, asking her to calm down, forgive him and herself, and forget their failure to save their son from the kidnappers. He urges her to take care of their children, treat them well, to not lose them too. He shares his own sadness but tries to appear strong, to be able to deal with his children calmly and solve their problems. Nasilehan goes to Ali's room and sadly looks at his pictures. Her father enters and tries to console her, advising her to accept that her son has died so she can live for her other children. Josur and Asi reach Yaman, and they are very happy to see him. They ask him if what the police said about him is true. Yaman admits he accidentally stabbed Dr. Nasilehan and did not intend to. Josur and Asi try to convince him to surrender himself and tell the police the truth what happened, suggesting that the police would release him better than running away and being proven guilty. However, Yaman tells them that no one will believe the truth because he is Nasilehan's lost son. Then they sit together and read the news, learning about Nasilehan's son who was kidnapped as a child, and despite paying the ransom, the gang never reappeared after taking the money, leading to the disappearance of Nasilehan's son at that time. Yaman tells them that he revealed the truth to Serhan, who is considered his father, but Serhan did not believe him. He explains that he must talk to Nasilehan himself and tell her the truth. If she does not believe him, he will completely distance himself from them. He then thinks of a plan to reach Nasilehan. At night, Nasilehan is preparing boxes to put away all the belongings of her son Ali from his room. She gathers her children and her husband to tell them that she was wrong for focusing on what happened to their brother and forgetting about them, neglecting to care for, spend time with them. Yaman reaches Roya and tries to calm her down and keep her from screaming. He asks her to go and tell Nasilehan the truth. However, Roya is afraid of Yaman and accuses him of likely lying to protect himself from going to jail. Yaman swears to her that he is not lying and that he has had the picture with him since he was young. Tells her that she should be the one to believe that he never intended to harm Nasilehan because he is not a harmful person. If she has any doubt about this, she should go and report that he is with her now. Roya then goes to Nasilehan's house and convinces Nasilehan to come down to the garden where Yaman is hiding to talk to her. Nasilehan asks him where he got the picture he has with him and if he knows where her son is. Yaman tells Nasilehan that ever since he became conscious of the world, he has had the picture with him, and despite forgetting his memories and not remembering anything about his childhood, the picture has always stayed with him. Nasilehan then suggests that he might have stolen the picture when he entered the house. Yaman decides to cut a lock of his hair with his knife and gives it to Nasilehan, asking her to perform a DNA test to confirm everyone's doubts. After that, he surrenders himself to the police, who were standing by the house to arrest Josur for breaking into the house and reporting him. A plan devised between Josur and Yaman to allow Yaman to speak to Nasilehan without getting caught. The police detain Yaman and Josur, and meanwhile Nasilehan is lying in Ali's bed, holding his picture and looking at it. The next morning, when Nasilehan wakes up, her husband, Serhan, tells her they will go to the police to testify against the homeless boy named Yaman. Nasilehan becomes anxious and spends the day thinking about Yaman and what he told her. She then talks with Roya, asking her not to tell anyone about what happened. Roya informs her that Serhan, her husband, already knows and recounts what happened at the hospital. Nasilehan is shocked that Serhan kept such a thing from her, expresses her fear of doing the DNA test or the possibility that Yaman might turn out to be a criminal involved in many crimes, leading to him being taken away and imprisoned again. Roya tells her that Yaman came to the house because Ilaz and Osgar attacked his house and beat up his friend Josur, who was arrested with him. Later, Yaman is being interrogated by the prosecutor, and Nasilehan enters with her lawyer, announcing she will withdraw the complaint. Ilaz, Shajla, and Serhan are shocked when Nasilehan leaves, and Yaman follows her. Ilaz tries to attack Yaman, but the police stop him. Nasilehan tells them she withdrew the complaint because Ilaz attacked them and took thugs to beat them, believing her actions were correct. Afterwards, Yaman, Josur, and Asi are in Ashraf Bey's car at his request. Ashraf Bey tells them he has arranged for a major hospital to treat their brother and offers them a large sum of money, asking them to leave Istanbul and his family, especially Yaman, giving them only 3 days. Yaman Yaman refuses to take the money, gets out of the car, and walks away. When they all return home, Josur argues with Yaman, accusing him of missing the chance to treat Umut and secure a decent life for them because he thought he could be part of a prominent family and that they would easily believe and welcome him. Yaman collapses on Josur in frustration, leaves the house, and walks away, overwhelmed with anger. Yaman sits alone in the street, and unexpectedly, Nasilihan comes to him. She sits with him and shares that when her son was kidnapped, she was with him in the garden, but got distracted by a phone call, and during that moment, he was taken from her. She has lived with guilt ever since, and over the years, many people have deceived them, driven by greed for their money. Yaman understands from her words that she does not believe him, and tells her that if she doubts him, she should report him to the police again. Nasilihan tells him that she knows what happened was an accident, and that she believes him because he is a good person and not harmful. The next morning, Asi tries to talk to Yaman to explain Josur's intentions and their fears of him holding on to something unreal that might not happen. Yaman shares his fear that the photo he has had since childhood might not be his, and that the hope of one day finding his family could vanish in a second. Asi comforts him with a hug. Later, Yaman stands in front of Nasilihan's house, lost in thought about what might happen to him. Roya sees him and asks what he is thinking about. He questions how a prominent family like Nasilihan's couldn't find him, assuming they must have forgotten him over time. Roya denies this, pointing out that the family celebrates their lost son's birthday every year and nobody could forget him, especially Nasilihan. She tells him that if he is Ali, his zodiac sign would be Virgo, which suits him because it's known for bravery and being good-hearted, as the traits of the sign suggest. Yaman thanks her for her company and trying to console him. Suddenly, Ilaz arrives and starts fighting with Yaman, hitting him. Roya tells him that she asked Yaman to come and sit with her, but Ilaz insists on hitting Yaman again, consumed by his hatred. Serhan arrives at the sound of the fight, makes Elaz enter the house, and tells Yaman he must leave and get out of their lives permanently. Meanwhile, Nasilihan is sitting with Shajlam, telling her about her encounter with Yaman and that Roya was with her. Yaman gave her a lock of his hair for a DNA test and had a picture of himself as a child. Shajlam tries her best to convince Nasilihan that the homeless young man might have taken Ali's photo from the internet, printed it to deceive her. When Shajlam returns home, Shajlam argues with her daughter Roya for helping a homeless man from the street deceive Nasilihan. However, Nasilihan is convinced by her words and decides not to proceed with the DNA test, shocking Roya. Her uncle arrives upon hearing their argument and becomes tense when he learns that Roya helped Nasilihan try to find Ali, her son, who was kidnapped as a child. That night, everyone gathers at Nasilihan's house. Shajlam talks to Serhan in a peculiar manner, revealing a secret relationship between them. She informs him that he has fallen in love with Nasilihan again and is oblivious to the happenings around. She tells him about the homeless man named Yaman, who reached Nasilihan and gave her a lock of his hair for a DNA test to confirm if he is her son, shocking Serhan. Later, Yaman is walking in the street back to his home when suddenly a car stops, and thugs get out. They grab him and beat him until his face bleeds. It is then revealed that Serhan was the one who sent them. Serhan gets out of the car, threatens Yaman, and tells him he will not allow a fraudster and imposter like him to deceive his wife and impersonate his son Ali. He hits Yaman again while warning him that if he sees his face near his family again, he will ruin his life, stating that a homeless person like him could never be his son, claiming even his dog is better than him. When Yaman returns home, his siblings are shocked to see him beat and injured. The next morning, Josur is angry because no one has convinced Yaman to take the money from Ashraf Bey and leave Istanbul, as it is the last day of their deadline. Suddenly, there is a knock on the door, causing everyone to become very scared. Josur takes Umut to the bathroom and locks him in. Yaman wakes up to the sound of the door and opens it himself, surprised to find Ashraf Bey, Nasilihan, and a crowd of journalists outside. Nasilihan hugs Yaman, calling him by the name Ali, and informs him that the DNA test came back positive, confirming he is her long-lost son. Josur and Asi are shocked by the news, and Yaman stands stunned, unable to speak. Ashraf Bey and Nasilihan take Yaman and walk away, with Josur and Asi looking at him with deep sadness as they see him walking away from them. On the way, Yaman breaks down, remembering all that happened to him, including the beating and insults he received from his family. He asks Nasilihan and Ashraf to stop the car because he wants to get out, struggling to breathe. Nasilihan follows him out and asks why he is so sad and breaking down. Yaman cries, questioning how they left him all these years on the street without using their influence to find him. When Nasilihan calls him Ali, he corrects her, saying his name is Yaman, not Ali, because Ali was lost and disappeared a long time ago. He was the one who went to them to convince them he was their son, but no one believed him. Instead, they beat and insulted him to prove he was a liar. Nasilehan hugs him, crying, and tells him she won't let him leave her again because she doesn't want to lose him a second time. She begs him to forgive her for all the mistakes since he was kidnapped until she doubted him. Ashraf Bey approaches Yaman, asking him to stand up and continue their conversation at home, but Yaman refuses to move. Ashraf and his daughter Nasilihan sit next to him, stating they won't leave without him and reassuring him they won't let him go. Ashraf also mentions that now he can die peacefully, knowing Yaman is safe. Meanwhile, Elaz is extremely angry about the news spread that Yaman is Nasilehan's son, who was kidnapped as a child. He swears to kill Yaman when he sees him, calling him a liar and a con man who easily deceived his mother and grandfather. He yells at his younger sister Isi to turn off the television. Nasilehan calls her husband Serhan to inform him about the DNA test results confirming Yaman is their son Ali, leaving Serhan shocked. When he returns home, he talks with Elaz and Shajla, who completely refuse the idea that the homeless man could be their brother. Serhan warns them not to bother their brother with any word, or he will punish them himself. When Ashraf Bey, Nasilihan, and Yaman arrive at their home, Yaman is still in disbelief about what is happening to him. When Serhan tries to approach Yaman to hug him, Yaman looks the other way, not wanting to embrace Serhan because of what he did to him. Isi runs to her brother, hugging him happily and joyfully, unlike Elaz and Shajla, who look at Yaman with anger and hatred and leave him to enter the house. At the same time, Roya watches the news with her uncle on TV and is very happy for Yaman and Nasilehan, while her mother and uncle are very upset and tense about what happened. Yaman sits with everyone. During this time, Elaz tries to annoy him and refuses to give him any clothes. Serhan forces Elaz to listen, not to speak to his brother in such a manner again. Nasilehan treats Yaman's wounds on his face. When Ashraf Bey asks about the cause of the wounds, Serhan becomes very tense, but Yaman refuses to say that Serhan hit him or was the cause. Shajla mocks Yaman, saying she cannot bear to see someone who tried to kill her mother as her brother. Ishi then takes Yaman to show him around the house and show him his room, happy and excited about her brother's return. Nasilehan sits with Yaman in his room, hugs him, and lets him rest on her shoulder. Meanwhile, Omut, Asi, and Josur sit sadly, missing Yaman's presence with them. They want to talk to him and communicate with him. Josur reassures Omut that Yaman will surely arrange for his surgery, help them out of poverty, and will never forget or abandon them. Josur then speaks to the press outside their house, telling them they are Yaman's siblings who grew up with him since he was young. He lets them in to film and tells them about Elaz and his thugs who beat Yaman. When Ashraf Bey sees the news, he becomes very angry at Josur's actions. Yaman borrows his sister Isi's phone to call Asi and check on everyone. Asi, Josur, and Omut are overjoyed to hear his voice. Yaman tells them about how big the house is and that he needs time to get used to it. When Roya calls for Yaman, Asi becomes upset upon hearing her voice, showing signs of jealousy. Yaman ends the call with Asi and his siblings. Roya welcomes him, happy that he has finally found his family, and asks about the wounds on his face. Yaman tells her what happened, that his father brought thugs to beat him to keep him away. Roya, saddened, says his father must now regret his actions and hugs him to console him. At this moment, Elaz sees them hugging and becomes very upset and agitated. At this time, Ashraf Bey's lawyer visits Josur and his siblings, asking them not to speak to the press again and not to cause any more trouble for Yaman. Josur gets angry at them and kicks them out of the house. Elaz is in Yaman's room, mocking him for staying in the guest room and telling him that wearing his clothes won't make him like Elaz or similar to him because he will always remain a street kid. Elaz asks him to leave and stay away from them, claiming that neither he nor Shajla will ever consider him their brother and that the dog in the house is more important and cleaner than him. Then Serhan and Shajla arrive and Serhan slaps Elaz, demanding he apologize to his brother immediately for what he said. However, Elaz leaves them and walks away, followed by Shajla. Serhan then apologizes to Yaman for hitting him, saying that if he had known Yaman was truly his son, he would never have thought to harm him. Shajla tries to calm Elaz down, who is extremely angry. Elaz tells her she must decide now whether she's on his side or the side of the street kid. Shajla reassures him that she will definitely be by his side. Elaz then looks at a photo of him and Roya, swearing to destroy Yaman if he takes anything that belongs to him, and thinks of a plan to ruin him. Later, when everyone sits down to eat together, Elaz and Shajla decide to apologize to Yaman in their own way. Roya and her mother join them, and Yaman is very happy to see Roya. During the meal, Roya notices the tattoo of a lotus flower on Yaman's arm. He tells her it represents a lotus flower, which he always dreams about and sees, feeling it's connected to something related to his childhood, what happened to him.